You think thinking will save you, so you think more. You analyze every decision, every conversation, every mistake, every possible future, every hidden meaning behind someone's words. You replay the past until it becomes a prison. You imagine the future until it becomes a threat. You search for the perfect answer before taking a single step. And slowly, something strange happens. You become intelligent enough to see every possibility, but too paralyzed to choose one. You understand yourself more, but live your life less. You see the risks, you see the contradictions, you see the absurdity, you see the pain waiting behind every door, and because you see too much, you move too little. This is the curse of overthinking. It feels like wisdom, but often it is fear wearing the mask of intelligence. It feels like self-awareness, but sometimes it is just avoidance with better vocabulary. It feels like control, but in reality, your mind has become the thing controlling you. The more you think, the less you live. Not because thinking is bad, but because thinking was supposed to be a tool, not a cage. The human mind is powerful. It can imagine worlds, solve problems, create art, build civilizations, predict danger, remember the past, plan the future. But the same mind that can free you can also trap you. A mind that thinks clearly is a gift, but a mind that cannot stop thinking becomes a prison. At first, overthinking feels useful. You tell yourself, I am just being careful. I am just trying to understand. I am just thinking things through. I do not want to make the wrong choice. And sometimes that is true. Some decisions deserve thought. Some situations require patience. Some problems need analysis. But there is a line, and many people cross it without noticing. Thinking becomes overthinking when it no longer leads to action, when every answer creates another question, when every possibility creates another fear, when every decision becomes a mental trial, when you are no longer using thought to live better, but using thought to avoid living at all. That is when the mind becomes a cage, not because someone locked you inside, but because you keep building new walls out of what if. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I choose wrong? What if I regret it? What if I am not ready? What if there is a better option? What if I embarrass myself? What if I lose everything? And the more you ask, the smaller your life becomes. You do not choose. You do not risk. You do not speak. You do not leave. You do not begin. You just think, and call it preparation. Dostoevsky understood this better than almost anyone. In Notes from Underground, he created one of the most painfully self-aware characters in literature, a man who thinks too much, sees too much, analyzes too much, and because of that, he cannot act. He is not stupid. That is the problem. He is painfully intelligent. He can see every motive inside himself, every contradiction, every weakness, every humiliation, every reason to act, and every reason not to act. His consciousness does not free him. It paralyzes him. This is one of Dostoevsky's darkest insights. Too much consciousness can become a sickness, because a person who is not very self-aware may act foolishly, but a person who is too self-aware may not act at all. They become trapped between possibilities. They watch themselves living instead of living. They stand outside their own life like a critic, judging every movement before it happens, mocking every desire before it has a chance to breathe, destroying every impulse with analysis. You want to speak. Then the mind says, that sounds stupid. You want to create. The mind says, it will not be good enough. You want to love. The mind says, they will leave. You want to change. The mind says, you have tried before. You want to begin. The mind says, not yet. And so life becomes delayed, not because you lack desire, but because your desire is constantly interrupted by consciousness. You do not need chains when your own mind can stop you. You do not need an enemy when your own thoughts can defeat you before you move. This is the underground, not a physical place, a psychological one, a place where the person who sees too much loses the ability to live simply. Overthinking is addictive because it gives you the illusion of control. If you think long enough, maybe you can avoid pain. If you analyze every detail, maybe you can prevent rejection. If you predict every outcome, maybe you can avoid failure. If you understand everything, maybe nothing can hurt you. That is the promise, but it is a false promise, because life cannot be fully controlled by thought. You can think carefully and still fail. You can choose wisely and still be hurt. You can plan everything and still be surprised. You can understand someone deeply and still lose them. This is what overthinkers hate most. Reality does not obey the mind. Life remains uncertain. People remain unpredictable. The future remains open, and no amount of analysis can remove the risk of being alive. So the overthinker keeps thinking, not because thinking solves the problem, but because thinking postpones the moment of risk. As long as you are thinking about starting, you do not have to start. As long as you are analyzing the relationship, you do not have to be vulnerable. As long as you are planning your future, you do not have to face the present. As long as you are studying yourself, you do not have to become yourself. Overthinking feels like control, but often it is avoidance. It is the mind saying, "Stay here." It is safer inside thought than outside in the world. But safety has a cost. The more you stay inside your mind, the less capable you become of living outside it. You become a spectator, not a participant. You know what you should do, but you do not do it. You know what you want, but you do not move toward it. You know what is wrong, but you keep explaining it instead of changing it. That is the trap. The mind gives you insight, but insight without action becomes another form of suffering. Schopenhauer believed that greater awareness often brings greater suffering. The more conscious you are, the more you notice. The more you notice, the more you suffer. A simple person may suffer from immediate problems, hunger, loss, conflict, disappointment. But the deeply reflective person suffers not only from what happens, but from what it means. They suffer from memory, from anticipation, from comparison, from imagination, from the gap between what life is and what life could be. This is the price of intelligence. A more aware mind does not only see the surface of life, it sees the emptiness beneath certain pleasures, the vanity behind ambition, the fragility behind love, the decay behind beauty, the ego behind morality, the loneliness behind success. And once you see these things, you cannot simply unsee them. This is why many thoughtful people feel disconnected from ordinary happiness. They cannot fully enjoy the moment because their mind is always stepping outside it, watching it, interpreting it, questioning it, ruining it. They sit with friends and wonder if the connection is real. They achieve something and wonder why it still feels empty. They fall in love and immediately imagine the pain of losing it. They rest and feel guilty for not doing more. They try to enjoy life, but the mind keeps asking, "What is the point?" This is not because they are weak. It is because consciousness is heavy. To see deeply is to carry more. But the danger is this: if you only see the weight of life, you may forget how to live it. Awareness can deepen life, but if it is not balanced by action, it becomes poison. Most overthinkers do not fear thinking too much. They fear choosing, because choosing means killing other possibilities. When you choose one path, you lose the fantasy of all the other paths. When you commit to one person, one career, one project, one identity, one direction, you give up the comfort of infinite potential, and that is terrifying. Because potential feels safe. Potential cannot fail. Potential cannot be judged. Potential cannot be exposed. Potential allows you to imagine yourself as anything. but action forces you to become something specific. And once you become something specific, you can be criticized. You can fail. You can discover that you are not as talented as you imagined. You can discover that the dream was easier when it stayed in your head. So the overthinker stays in possibility. They keep researching, keep planning, keep waiting, keep preparing, keep imagining the perfect moment. But the perfect moment never comes. Because perfection is often just fear with a beautiful name. You are not waiting for clarity. You are waiting for certainty. And certainty does not come before action. It comes after. You do not become confident by thinking about confidence. You become confident by surviving action. You do not become ready by waiting. You become ready by doing the thing before you feel ready. You do not find your path by imagining every possible road. You find it by walking one. That is what the overthinker must understand. Life does not reveal itself to the person who only thinks. It reveals itself to the person who acts. Self-awareness is powerful. But there is a point where self-awareness becomes self-obsession. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What does this say about me? Why did I feel that? Why did I react that way? What does this mean about my childhood? What does this mean about my personality? What does this mean about my future? Why am I like this? Am I healed? Am I broken? Am I repeating patterns? Am I the problem?" At first, these questions can help you grow, but eventually, if you are not careful, your inner world becomes all you can see. You start analyzing your emotions instead of feeling them. You start diagnosing your life instead of living it. You start turning every experience into evidence about your identity. This is where modern self-awareness becomes dangerous. People learn the language of psychology, but use it to stay trapped in themselves. They call everything trauma, everything a pattern, everything a trigger, everything a sign. They understand themselves more and more, but change less and less, because understanding can become another hiding place. You can spend years studying why you are afraid and still never do the thing that scares you. You can understand your childhood and still repeat the same adult choices. You can know your attachment style and still avoid intimacy. You can identify your patterns and still obey them. Self-awareness only becomes useful when it leads to self-confrontation. Otherwise, it becomes a mirror you stare into forever. Nietzsche did not want people to merely understand themselves. He wanted them to become themselves. That is a very different thing. Understanding yourself is passive. Becoming yourself is active. Understanding yourself asks, "Why am I like this?" Becoming yourself asks, "What am I going to do with it?" Nietzsche believed that life demands transformation, not endless reflection, not comfort, not hiding behind explanations, but self-overcoming. To overcome yourself means you stop treating your current state as your final form. Yes, you are anxious, but must anxiety rule you? Yes, you are wounded, but must the wound become your identity? Yes, you are afraid, but must fear choose your future? Yes, you overthink, but must thought become your prison? Nietzsche would not respect a person who uses intelligence as an excuse for paralysis. He would ask, "What are you creating? What are you risking? What are you becoming?" Because the goal is not to think perfectly. The goal is to live powerfully. Not recklessly, not stupidly, but fully, with enough courage to act before every doubt has disappeared, with enough strength to move while uncertainty is still present, with enough honesty to admit, "My mind is not protecting me anymore, it is imprisoning me." The overthinker does not need fewer thoughts. They need a stronger will, a will that can say, "I have thought enough. Now I must act." One of the biggest lies the mind tells you is, you will act when you feel ready. But readiness is often a trap. You think one day fear will disappear. One day doubt will disappear. One day you will wake up with perfect confidence. One day the path will be clear. One day your mind will finally give you permission. But that day rarely comes, because the mind that is addicted to overthinking will always find another reason to wait. More research, more planning, more healing, more certainty, more time, more signs. But life does not wait for you to feel ready, and the version of you that you want to become is not built by waiting. It is built by entering the thing you are afraid of, the conversation you avoid, the work you postpone, the risk you keep analyzing, the decision you keep delaying, the life you keep imagining but not living. You do not need to be fearless. You need to act while fear is present. You do not need to be completely healed. You need to stop using healing as a reason to avoid living. You do not need to know exactly who you are. You need to stop betraying the part of you that already knows what it wants. There is a moment when more thinking becomes cowardice, not because you are weak, but because you are using thought to avoid the demand of life, and life demands movement. When you live too much in your head, you lose contact with reality, not immediately, slowly. You stop trusting your instincts. You stop trusting your body. You stop trusting simple decisions. You need a reason for everything, a theory for everything, a perfect explanation before you move. You become detached from experience. You do not enjoy the meal. You analyze your appetite. You do not enjoy the conversation. You analyze the tone. You do not enjoy love. You analyze the risk. You do not enjoy rest. You analyze whether you deserve it. This is how life becomes thin. You are there physically, but mentally you are somewhere else. In the past, in the future, in a hypothetical conversation, in an imaginary failure, in a version of reality that has not happened and may never happen. The tragedy is that most overthinkers believe they are seeing life more clearly, but sometimes they are not seeing life. They are seeing their fears projected onto life. They are not responding to reality. They are responding to imagined consequences. They are fighting ghosts. And the more time you spend fighting ghosts, the less energy you have for the real world. This is how overthinking steals life, not all at once, but moment by moment, decision by decision, delay by delay, until one day you realize you did not avoid failure, you avoided life. So how do you escape? Not by becoming thoughtless, not by becoming impulsive, not by turning your mind off. You escape by putting thought back in its proper place. Thought should serve life. Life should not serve thought. The first step is to recognize when thinking has stopped being useful. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me act or helping me avoid action? Is this analysis giving me clarity or creating more confusion? Am I solving the problem or rehearsing my fear? If thinking does not lead to action, it becomes rumination, and rumination is not wisdom. It is a loop. The second step is to make smaller decisions faster. Overthinkers often destroy themselves by turning every decision into a life-defining event. Not everything is destiny. Some choices are just choices. Choose the direction. Send the message. Start the project. Have the conversation. Make the imperfect move. You can correct a bad step, but you cannot correct a step you never take. The third step is to return to the body. Walk, train, breathe, build something, clean something, move. The body brings you back to reality, because the mind can live in 10,000 possible futures, but the body only lives here, now. The fourth step is to practice action before certainty. Do not wait until all doubt disappears. Doubt may come with you. Let it. Courage is not acting without doubt. Courage is acting while doubt is still speaking. The fifth step is to stop worshiping your own complexity. Sometimes the answer is not hidden in another deep analysis. Sometimes the answer is embarrassingly simple. Sleep, work, speak honestly, leave, begin, apologize, train, choose. Stop explaining your prison and walk out of it. So how do you escape? Not by becoming thoughtless, not by becoming impulsive, not by turning your mind off. You escape by putting thought back in its proper place. Thought should serve life. Life should not serve thought. The first step is to recognize when thinking has stopped being useful. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me act or helping me avoid action? Is this analysis giving me clarity or creating more confusion? Am I solving the problem or rehearsing my fear? If thinking does not lead to action, it becomes rumination, and rumination is not wisdom. It is a loop. The second step is to make smaller decisions faster. Overthinkers often destroy themselves by turning every decision into a life-defining event. Not everything is destiny. Some choices are just choices. Choose the direction. Send the message. Start the project. Have the conversation. Make the imperfect move. You can correct a bad step, but you cannot correct a step you never take. The third step is to return to the body. Walk, train, breathe, build something, clean something, move. The body brings you back to reality, because the mind can live in 10,000 possible futures, but the body only lives here, now. The fourth step is to practice action before certainty. Do not wait until all doubt disappears. Doubt may come with you. Let it. Courage is not acting without doubt. Courage is acting while doubt is still speaking. The fifth step is to stop worshiping your own complexity. Sometimes the answer is not hidden in another deep analysis. Sometimes the answer is embarrassingly simple. Sleep, work, speak honestly, leave, begin, apologize, train, choose. Stop explaining your prison and walk out of it. So ask yourself, where am I using thought to avoid life? What decision have I been delaying? What risk have I been analyzing instead of taking? What conversation have I rehearsed 1,000 times but never had? What dream have I kept safe by never attempting it? What version of myself exists only in my imagination? Your mind is powerful, but it was never meant to be your master. It was meant to be a tool, a guide, a servant of life, not a prison guard. The more you think, the less you live. When thinking becomes a substitute for courage, when analysis becomes a substitute for action, when self-awareness becomes a substitute for transformation, when understanding yourself becomes an excuse to never become yourself. You do not need to destroy your mind. You need to stop worshiping it. You need to stop asking thought for a certainty life will never give you. You need to move, imperfectly, uncertainly, afraid, but alive. Because your life will not be built inside your head. It will be built by the choices you make outside of it. And maybe the question is not, what if I make the wrong choice? Maybe the real question is, how much of my life will I lose while trying to avoid one? You can spend your whole life thinking about who you could become, or you can finally begin. The mind is a powerful place, but do not mistake it for the world. Do not mistake analysis for wisdom. Do not mistake hesitation for depth. And do not mistake the cage for safety. Because the more you think without acting, the more your mind becomes a maze. And one day, if you are not careful, you may realize you did not get lost in life. You got lost in yourself. The mind is a good servant, but a cruel master. Think deeply, but do not forget to live.